Good evening, everyone. I want to thank you for coming to this class on workflow for the Home Inspector 2021. What's workflow? Well, workflow is how do you do your inspection? Do you do it the same way every time? And there has to be consistency. I don't know about any of you, but when I do an inspection, I have to do it the same way every time. When I show up at the house, I go to the right or left, pick a direction. I do it the same way, and I just keep working around in circles, and then go up or down and into the basement or up into the attic or on the roof, so you can stay on that same pattern. And that way, later when you're trying to remember what you didn't do, then you can figure it out later. Okay, so as we work through here, please unclick your microphone and ask away if you have any questions. Okay, so when we get started here, I need to get the job. Why didn't the client want to hire you versus someone else? Roger? So when someone calls, do they call because they want you, or are you the only one that picked up the phone that time?
Maybe a combination of both.
Okay. So they like to talk to somebody. So usually they just say, oh, you picked up the phone. Do they act surprised?
Yeah, sometimes they do. And there's been many inspections over the years to where, they say, well, you're the only one that answered the phone on a Saturday. So therefore you must need the work, or you want the work, or you're running your business the way I would run my business. So they chose me.
Yeah, so this is a good example, everybody. I want to listen about this. So Roger answers the phone on Saturdays. One of the things I hear, because I said, I'm going to pick up the phone for a while, because I usually don't answer the phone because I'm such a prima donna. I have someone answer it for me. But after 5 o'clock, the phone just keeps ringing and ringing because they're trying to find somebody to do that inspection the next day for that offer they just wrote up after they met the client. It's a little bit different now with mobile phones, but you have to sort of be proactive. Um, why did the client want to hire you? Well, they heard about you from someone else. Referrals are probably 50% of what you get. If they're not, you need to make it that way. So every inspection you've done over the last year or 6 months or week, you need to go back to that client and say, wow, I really like work. Can you please, don't say please, it sounds like you're begging, but I say it anyway. Will you please tell all your clients, I really like to work? They think that's what they tell. And then they tell everybody that I've got this inspector who's hungry, like the wolf, and would like to do an inspection. And they go, oh, wow, I just hired another guy. I went to the bank the other day and I handed in my paperwork and said, brick for brick. Well, that sounds familiar. And I said, yeah, we did your inspection for you. And then I got another client, also worked at the bank, and we give away free flashlights. So that helps. I can always say, well, you saw the light, you called us. And so that's what we do, where before we used to hand out tape measures. So why'd you get the job? You were just breathing, and they called, and you answered the phone. So that's usually what happens there. Okay, you want to get the information for the job. Example, and some of you say, well, this is stuff I do already. The address, the square footage, the age, the client's phone number, email, and realtor representing the client. This is sort of important because when you send out a report, I don't know, is there anybody here who never sends out the report to the realtor? You just send it to the buyer and then your client, and then you let them send it out? Roger, do you send it to whoever you're?
Yeah, I send it to the client's agent as well as the client.
Right. Oh, okay. I got somebody calling here. Someone else will pick up that phone. Yeah. So we find out who's involved with the sale, and we send it to whoever the client would like to. Now, many times the client says, don't give it to my realtor. And the realtor says, I need to have it. What do you do about that?
Well, you respect what they want to have happen. Let them know that, proper protocol would be to send it to their agent so their agent can review the report and then go over, issues what she or he would think is, appropriate to address in the Binzer.
Yeah, so we're not in the contract, everybody. It just says they have the right to have an inspection. So if your client, so we got this one where the house was pretty expensive and the seller never got a copy of the report. And I said, well, you've got to get it from the buyer. The buyer has said to us, do not give it to you. And they backed out of the offer, out of the deal. And we're not required to give it to them. And then the buyer said to us, if you do it, there'll be repercussions. So it scared us. So we followed their wishes. So you've got to follow what the contract states just to play it safe, everybody. Okay. Also, if the client will be present at the inspection, this is pretty important. Now, some of you probably never even meet your clients, but we always ask who's coming. If they have a representative like Uncle John, or a lot of times we'll have the buyer's new wife or wife to be or husband, vice versa, or whoever it is show up. They've gotten the okay for us to talk to them about the inspection. At this point, we'll talk to them, but sometimes you get other people and then you say, who are you? Why are you here? And it turns out it's the neighbor or it's the seller has somebody there, which we're not going to talk to because the client has said don't talk to them. Determine how you will gain access to the property. Everyone sort of takes this for granted. And some of you have super keys, which allow you to get into the property. Tucson market. Ken, do you have super keys, or how do you get into your properties up there in Florence?
We do have a super key, yes.
Okay, so the Tucson market used to have super keys, and we've been denied access for about 20 years because they had a problem where people were breaking in, stealing stuff. They said, "Well, you know who it is. You have the super key," and it turned out it wasn't even an inspector. It was somebody who was not an inspector. I'll just leave it there. And they've never let us have access. So a realtor has to come and open up all properties. Now they're putting safes where you push a button to get in, which is even, I don't think, very good because there's no way to determine who came into the property. It's just a key. If the property is occupied, we have to have somebody open the property for us. We're not going to go in ever. Okay. So if it's a vacant property and they'll tell it's vacant, sometimes they'll leave a key or they'll do something. We'll say, okay, we'll go in, it's vacant. Then we call and say, we're leaving the property at this time. You've got to be very careful for your liability because you're the last one there. So, you watch all those cop shows and you always say, oh, wow, I think that guy's guilty. Okay, is the house vacant or occupied? Ask that the realtor make sure all utilities are on. There should be a fee for a return visit. This is happening so often now where the gas is turned off. We say there's a fee. Of course, no one ever pays it. We don't want our client to pay it. But the buyer's agent has now said to the listing agent, we want you to pay this fee. And they say, sure, we'll pay it at closing. Do they? No. They don't. So we have a payment portal. They can pay it. And we've actually gotten a couple of payments that way. It's pretty cool. $50 is what we've been charging, something really sort of reasonable. But we're not trying to screw over our client. Now, if it's way out in the middle of nowhere and they've asked us to come back, we've got to charge some minor fee. Now, one of the things about this is the gas company. Okay, so the gas is usually not on. That's the issue. The gas company then inspects all the items and turns the gas on. So that's sort of handy. Now, here's the thing. If you show up and the water and the electric and gas are all off, what do all of you do? Do you all hop in your car and say, well, call me when you're ready? Or do you do an inspection, ask to be paid, and then say, I'll come back when all that stuff's on? What would you do, Ken?
I would, yes. I would inspect what I can, and hopefully before the end of the inspection, we'd have some answers.
Right, yeah. So Ken has the same philosophy I do. I want my money and I want it now, okay? That's right. Get your money. I never leave without money. Now, some of you get paid before. That's fine. We've instituted a payment portal, and I cannot believe people are paying in advance now or before we would collect the money later. So there's a company called Stripe, and if you want to collect money, the payment portal is in your email, and they click on that link, and it takes you to a secure site at the Stripe location and puts the money in your bank. And there's no sign-in, there's no special fee for that, other than there is a fee. It's about 3.5%. But your client can just click on it, put their information, and give you money. And someone says, well, it doesn't seem very secure. No one's going out of their way to give you money, okay? No one's sneaking to your site to pay you. Well, so what happened to us is we had 600 hacks in 3 days. These guys are stealing credit cards, and they were charging $1 and $2 onto our Stripe account. So to resolve that, we don't take any charge less than $5. You say, well, why were you taking any charges less than $5? I have yard sales, and I was using my Stripe account for the yard sales I was having. Sort of stupid, but that's what I was doing. So, and we'll talk about fees and stuff for that in a minute. Okay, so charge a fee if you can, and again, who's paying that is the listing agent, and then they won't do that again. Okay, the state of Arizona requires that you have a signed contract on all inspections before you deliver the report. We're the only state that has it that way. Other states, you must get a signed contract before you do the inspection, before you show up at the curb. This was written back so long ago. It was before emails were there and everyone was using fax machines. So that's why it said before you deliver the report, you need a signed contract, because everybody was faxing stuff back and forth. So in our case, we use Document eSign. It's pretty nifty, or you can use any of the programs if you have HomeGauge, or I don't know, there's 5 or 6 different companies out there where the client signs in, puts their X on the page, and then it allows your report to be sent to them as a PDF if they want to download it, or an HTML. So if everything's online and using cloud, everything's done on the cloud. I've never used that type of system because we're still sort of antiquated. We actually have a human answer the phone and say, "Can we take your money, please?" And that's how we do it. Okay. Any questions about using a DocuSign program or any of the other programs that you get a signature from? What do you use, Roger?
I use an antiquated system. It's called the Schedule Center.
Oh my God.
And
Okay.
yeah, I guess you're aware of it, huh?
No, not really, but go ahead and tell us.
But anyway, it sends the contract out to the client, and they just click on a box, and when they click save, it records all kinds of information. You know, the IP address, the time, who it was, you know, because they have to sign into the account and use a username, so it puts their username as part of the signature.
Nice.
It's pretty cool. In the 15 years I've used it, I haven't once had to submit that to, you know, like an attorney or something like that. So
Okay.
I don't really know how well it's going to work, but at least it's something.
Right.
It does the signature.
Yeah,
It's
there's lots of different stuff. I use Adobe DocuSign because it comes up on their phone and then allows them to just take their finger and do their signature and hit send, and we can send it to multiple people. And so you just drag the document in you want to have signed for anything, and then they just sign it on their phone. So, and everybody has a phone now, so we've only had one person, like you said, Roger. And once they sign it, it comes back and goes to our email and says they've signed the document, and then we're ready and off we go. So one of the most common complaints when a complaint's filed against you by a client to the state of Arizona is you didn't have a signed contract. I don't know how many inspectors can't find their signed contract. You need to have a folder available or something that's named the same as your report form. Now, so Roger, speaking of that, how do you save your reports? Are they saved as a PDF? Are they saved in the, what program are you using?
Yeah, they're saved as a PDF.
Okay, but you're using what kind of program to write reports?
3D.
Okay, he uses 3D. Ken, what are you using for inspections?
HomeGauge.
HomeGauge. I use HomeGauge. Key, do you know what you're using?
Home Inspector Pro.
Home Inspector Pro. Okay, all these programs make the report in their own program, and then you save it and you can convert it into a PDF. If their program went down, you'd have no way to make a copy or send it. So for your own safety, you need to produce PDFs or some other form to save that as a backup. So if the program went down, you had a way to protect yourself, showing that you had a report, specifically the contract. Okay. How far back are you saving stuff, Roger?
I go 10 years.
10 years. Okay.
Yeah, it's easier to do the math that way.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so we've found out that most people, if they file a complaint, they do it within a year. And then the ones that are back 3 or 4 or 5 years, I've just never heard of anyone going back farther than that because they can't remember who you are. The complaint that they're thinking about is gone. So if it's something where they can dig it out. But I've had people call me and say, "Oh, I was going through my paperwork. I found your card the other day." Well, we print a new card every year with the address, with the date on it. So they have our business card. So every year they get a new card with a new calendar. So it's pretty easy for them to tell what year we did their inspection. And they always seem to stick it on there. And some people say, well, cards are old school. Yes, I know. But it has a nice calendar on it. That's old school too. So that's probably going the way of the dodo bird. But for some reason, people like that feel of that paper in their hands. So contracts. Okay, get paid by an online pay portal ahead of time or on site by a check or a credit card. I don't understand home inspectors, but they're all running around going, "Oh, I'll never charge an extra fee. It's just going to the man." And you're going, well, you pay a fee every time you use your credit card anyway, no matter what you're buying. So suddenly you're a bank. Credit card fees are part of business and overhead. You're allowed to charge more for a credit card payment or offer a discount if the client wants to pay cash or check. Never let the client get away without paying. I don't know how many times I get the call and they go, "The client won't pay me." I'm going, "Yeah, you gave him your product and now they don't care about you. And how are you going to get your money back?" We don't release a report. We've had people send overnight checks, whatever they wanted to do, cashier's checks. Now the state will protect you. If someone writes a bad check, the state will actually send someone to their door and say you wrote a bad check to a business and collect your money. That's pretty cool. But either way, 95% of all our payments are made by a credit card, so we don't care anymore. And you say, well, how much? How do you cover that? We've just raised everything by $15. It's $4 roughly when you figure all the costs. Everyone says, "Oh, I'm only paying 2.75." Well, you're not. So they charge a quarter per transaction, $1 for whatever it is. You need to look at the monthly bill you get and divide that by the number of charges you have. And then that tells you the real cost of what you're paying per $100. And it's about $3.50. Okay, I just rounded out to $4 because it seems like a nice round number to me. And so we add $4 per 100. And that's what we figured out. So, and I'll say, we'll offer you a $15 discount if you want to write a check or pay in cash. We don't get any cash payments, but some people want to pay with a check. Okay.
Why don't you ask for cash?
Well, I don't like to have the cash because then I might want to spend it before I claim it, but I have to claim all business money that comes in because I like to be very legal, not illegal. No one pays in cash hardly. And then if they do pay in cash, I need to have it dusted to make sure it's not covered in. They say all hundreds are covered in cocaine now. I just thought I'd mention that. We did an inspection for a person who has a grow shop, and he said all his money is clean. And I'm going, oh, great. But either way, they were buying a house and they paid us in cash. We prefer just to have it by credit card and move on. Okay, workflow for the inspector during the inspection. All of you have a way that you do your inspection. You go right to left or however you do it. We start by coming up, putting the ladder on the front or the side of the house. We like to put it in the front so we don't forget it. And then after we come down off the roof, we take the ladder and put it in the sidewalk right between the house and our truck so we don't forget it. And if we need it, we'll come back and get it. We never go inside the house with the ladder still up on the roof. We always take the ladder down, and we don't lay it on the ground. We lay it up as an A-frame, so someone has to walk in it with their face. We found out if you lay it on the ground, people are still tripping over it. It's just sort of weird. They don't see it.
Yeah.
Okay, introduce yourself.
Also, it's a good idea to, break your ladder down, put it in the A-frame mode, like Rick was saying. But there's been a couple of times where I have left, back in the early days, I left the ladder on the, leaning up against the roof or the eave, and lo and behold, the buyer shows up, and he or she takes the liberty of going up on your ladder to get onto the roof. Next thing you know, you're down in the backyard. You got someone up on the roof that used your ladder. So it's a good idea to break your ladder down to the A-frame mode, or at least collapse it or whatever, so that no unauthorized people do not get on the roof.
Yeah, you got to take it down. Do not leave it on the edge of the roof. Introduce yourself and others that may be assisting you. I always ask, who are you, and who are you? And you say, why would I ask all the people? Because sometimes there might be 3 or 4 people there. You might have the selling agent, the listing agent, the buyer. I've had neighbors standing there and thought they were the buyer. I just have to ask who people are. So now I finally say, who's buying it? And then ask the buyer if they have a list of concerns that we can address during the inspection. And they say, yeah, I've got a list right here. And they pull it out. So I got 50 items on it. And I'm going, wow, when we're done, let's go over that list and see if there's anything I haven't found. I never wander around the house. I never go and look at the stuff they want to see until I get there on the path. I never break my protocol. Never. Well, unless it's on fire or something, we might do that. So you will get them, and you're inspecting following your path. You have to follow your same path. Does everybody understand? Sort of a kung fu thing. Follow the path, grasshopper. Okay. Okay, you must maintain a certain momentum at the inspection so that it doesn't drag on longer than necessary. Example, don't start in the afternoon and let it drag out until sunset occurs. I don't know how many inspectors are saying, well, how do you get your inspection done? The sun's going down. Start earlier or don't take so long. So, Roger, what's your longest inspection? 5-6 hours?
Over a day.
Huh?
Including the report, about 2 days.
Yeah, okay. But on site, how long are you there? What's the longest time you've been on site?
Oh, the longest time on site, I think it was there 11 hours, and it was for 11,000 square foot house.
Okay, well, that's the aberration. Let's say it's just a standard house you might be looking at,
Well, a 2,500 square foot house, I'm going to be there, 2.5 hours. The client shows up, I'm going to be there 3.5 hours.
Okay, so that's probably about right. Key, have you been to an inspection casually? Do you know how long you're there typically?
It's about an hour per 1,000 foot.
Yeah, okay. So one of the things I say is, if you're on the roof more than 30 minutes, something's wrong. You're having some sort of stroke or something. You shouldn't have to spend more than like 20, 30 minutes up there determining the condition unless you're just picking it to bits. It's sort of like you have a scab on your arm and you're sort of scratching at it. I'll see people do it. I'm going, God, can you just stop doing that? It's driving me crazy. And some of you say, oh, no, I'll spend an hour up there. Why? I mean, it needs to be repaired or not. So I like to maintain a certain cadence to my walk. And as we're going, and if the buyer's with me, I love to have the buyer with me, everybody. Some of you say, I don't want the buyer. I love to have them with me. As we're walking along, I say, if you see something I don't see, please just say, what is that? And then if they're dragging me down and slowing me down, I'll say, well, you got to keep up with me. Let's go. But you got to maintain. And I've watched inspectors just sort of stand there and listen to the buyer, and you're going, oh, please. You've got to keep moving. Okay. But it's not a speed race. Okay. Stay on the same path around the exterior, each time starting either right or left of the front of the house. Example, starting at the roof, if you expect those. Why do we say that? Well, we do not walk on tile roofs. What does that mean? We do not walk on tile roofs, ever. And what's a tile roof? One that looks like tile, mission tile, cement tile. We just don't walk on them. Why? Well, roofers will walk on them, and they need to have a roof inspection. So when a client calls us or sets up an inspection, we tell them we don't walk on tile roofs. And people say, well, don't you charge less? No, the quality of our inspection is the same. It sort of slows us down if we have to get on a roof, but Usually on a tile roof, you can stand on a built-up painted roof somewhere and get something seen, but you're really not doing a very good inspection. Some guys will say, oh, I moved my ladder around. That does nothing. You need someone up there wandering around on the roof looking for leaks. Well, one of the things about tile is you can look along the eaves and see where water's been running along the drip edge or out of the sides, or you walk in the interior and you can see leaks. So what the tile roof guys are doing now, they're saying the underlayment's bad. We need to replace the whole roof. So they're coming back for the bids of $10,000, $11,000, $12,000. Or the new one is every repair is $1,150. I can almost tell you that before they get out of the truck. We don't go on any 2-story roofs ever. In other words, we don't have a ladder that goes above 20 feet. We just don't go above 20 feet. Now, the other day, we were able to pull our ladder up onto a garage and then from there get onto the 2nd story. But we're never going to put our ladder up on a tile roof and try to get to the next level if there's not a patio roof or a landing somewhere. We're just not going there. So some of you think you're in the circus or something. You're standing on the edge of a parapet and trying to jump off to the roof. So Roger, in your area, do you go up on roofs if there's snow?
If it's a flat roof, yeah, I have.
If there's snow?
If there's snow and it's a flat roof.
Oh, okay, and a flat roof, yeah. So I'm up in Canada, everybody, and I'm doing a class. In Canada, it snows. I'll just let you know this. So it shows a guy with snow up to his waist, and he's walking on a roof. And I'm going, what in the world can you see on a roof where the snow is up to your waist? And he's going, well, I'm going to get a shovel. I'm going to dig a path. And I'm going, for what reason? But yet they were talking about how unsafe ladders were. And here they were talking about this roof. They're walking through snow. Again, aberration. Any questions about this thing here about the path and not walking on roofs? As long as you tell your client you're not doing it, they need to get a roof inspection from a roofer. Okay? Stay on the same path around the interior each time, starting either the right or left from the point of entry from the exterior. Don't let the client or realtor drag you away from your path. Tell them to mention when you get to the area of their concern. I don't know how many times I have to say this. Now, why is this important? Well, each person who becomes a home inspector has to do 30 ride-alongs called parallels in the state of Arizona. We're one of the few that offer them in Southern Arizona. Hopefully there's a few others that offer that. But when we take them out, the biggest issue is keeping the path. You know, they just want to, I call it the ferret syndrome. You know, they're just jumping all over the place. They want to go left, they want to go right. And then I says, okay, where was the water heater? And they go, well, I don't know. Well, it's in that door you didn't open that's on the right side of the hallway. Or you think, I can't find the thermostat. Well, if you stayed on the wall, you would have found it. Okay. So are we required to look at thermostats for heating and cooling units? Roger?
Yeah, we're required to look at the thermostats.
Is that an operating control?
Yeah, normal operating controls. There is the alias.
Yeah, so there you go. You're required to look at them. So I had someone say, well, I'm not required to look at thermostats. You are. It's an operating control. So some of the things, like you say, I don't look at leaks, or I don't look at pools, but yet there's a leak in a water line over there because we're required to report on leaks. Okay, send whoever's with you inside to turn on the AC unit. I said this and I thought everyone's head was going to explode. Hey, I don't run around and run back and forth. If someone's with me, like the buyer or the agent's watching me, they just can follow me. I don't care. And there's someone there, or sometimes the homeowner's home. I'll say, hey, can you go in and turn on the AC unit for me so I can be here when this comes on? Do any of you stand there when the AC unit comes on so you can hear it come on? You should, because that's when you can tell the condition of that unit, whether it's lagging at startup or it's making a chunking sound when it turns on and off. Roger, are we required to look at the fuses or the disconnect that's for the AC unit?
Yes.
As a safety device?
Yes, that can be
Yes.
Automatic safety control. I mean,
It's a safety control. So here's what's happening with the list of 84 things that you have to inspect. Suddenly, you know, things you never thought of, or someone saying, oh, well, wait a minute, fuse could be that, the plug, the screw-in fuse, the bus fuse. And so you're going, oh, okay, whatever. So we're rewriting our report forms a little bit and putting in specialized areas now specific for those items that we would have never thought of, even though we do inspect them. You know, we only inspect them when they were defective. We would say these are, the fuses are too large. Now we're required to report on the fact that we did inspect the fuses and they were the correct size, because we're required to report on safety devices. So that's what we've done. Keep your pass. Stop running around looking for GFI resets. What does that mean? Well, stop tripping them off unless you know where the reset button is. You will find the breaker if you stay on the same circuit. Trip it off and now go back to the bathrooms. So what are we telling you? Just stop running around and tripping them. This has become a real pain in the butt. Guys are getting to an inspection, guys or gals are getting to an inspection, putting their tester in the bathroom and tripping it without knowing where the reset, can't hear it, and then they spend 20 minutes looking for the reset. Our rule is you go through and verify there's power until you finally get to the one where the button is. You trip that off, and now you go back to the 2 or 3 bathrooms that you thought should be GFI protected, and they'll have no power. But our rule is you never trip off a circuit. Why? Well, over the years, refrigerator holding meat from some hunt they had in Africa in the garage didn't get reset. The pool didn't come back on because they tripped off a GFCI that ran a pool area. They came back and their bathrooms didn't work in one part of the house because there were 2 different GFI resets. So the rule for where these are is varied, and kitchens are usually controlled from kitchens, everybody. So when someone says the bathroom controlled the kitchen, there's something wrong.
Yeah, it's not wired appropriately.
Yeah, it's not wired appropriately, and it's not that way. So you need to write it up and say it. Bathrooms don't control kitchens, and kitchens don't control bathrooms. Someone wrote up that the kitchen controlled the garage door opener. And I went, oh, okay, that sounds interesting. And so we went into the garage and we tripped off the GFCI we could see. And guess what? Everything in the kitchen still works. Somehow they got it all mixed up, and you know, and then that just makes us look bad. So we never tripped anything off on the left there. Okay, this came up recently. Never leave a bathroom while you're filling sinks, showers, and bathtubs. I don't know. Do any of you like to fill the bathtub and then walk down the hallway and turn on the oven and turn on the stove while you're filling those things? Roger, what do you do?
No,
You even put,
I stay with it. I mean, my rule is, I never leave running water unattended. Never.
oh, okay. Now, will you turn on the dishwasher and walk out of the room, or do you have to stand there and watch the dishwasher running?
Oh, that's one thing that I let it go.
Okay, so we all do that. So we turn on the dishwasher, and we'll let that run, because if it's going to leak, you might as well let it leak now. Okay, so sinks, we are filling sinks and bathtubs to the overflow, and we're making that statement that we filled them to there, because what's happening is we weren't filling them, and we were saying you need to verify that they don't leak. They'd move in and then they leak. So we find out it's just better to fill them up, verify there's no leaks. We take a piece of toilet paper, we lay it on the floor of the sink base, and if it gets wet, it leaks and drips. First, we verify it. We don't make a mess. So that's the problem. Some inspectors are filling them up and letting the water run over and making a mess. The idea is not to make a mess, but to verify that they are. So on a bathtub, if we don't fill it to the overflow, we say they need to have that checked before they use the bathtub or fill it with a plumber. Never trip a GFI circuit with your tester unless there's a reset button in the same outlet that you are testing. Does that make sense? So if you say it that way, including the garage, as people sometimes have a refrigerator or freezer plugged in. We have a statement, a boilerplate that says there was a refrigerator in the garage. We opened the door and the light was on, verifying there was power to the refrigerator when we left. That's our boilerplate. You don't want to have to buy replacement food. They always seem to call up and say, you were the last person there. No, we turned it on. We also take a picture showing the light was on. Okay, if the house is occupied, do not trip the arc faults or GFCIs. Sometimes the GFI in the laundry room is controlling power to the smart box. This has become a real big deal. We do these big, gigantic houses like Roger was talking about. And we thought, oh, this is innocuous. We'll just go ahead and trip the GFI. I see it right here. Damn it, if that thing did control. She was online to Germany doing some banking or something, and it shut off the modem plugged into a wall outlet in the utility room, the laundry room. And so we have this rule now that we're not going to trip these off. But we thought, oh, it's just right here next to the sink. The internet is controlled with the system. So that was crazy. Okay, be sure to fill in your report to meet the Arizona BTR 84 items that must be mentioned on each inspection. Now, Roger, you helped do some of this work, and I think you're on the board now, aren't you? I saw your.
Yeah, I stepped up, and I'm part of the report writing committee.
Yeah. Okay. So there's 84 required.
Standards committee, excuse me.
Yeah. So there's 84 required items, but there are, I think, 11 items that are asterisks. In other words, you don't have to say this house does not have a basement. This house
Correct.
does not have an attic. So, originally they were making us say this house doesn't have a basement. And then people
Yeah.
say, well, I want
If the
one.
system or component, I mean, the best example would be gas. If
Yeah.
the system or component is not in that house, and you don't have to say it's not in this house.
Right. So we have a rule that if it's an all electric house, we say this house does not have gas. We say that even though you don't have to, because I've had people come in and say, well, I wanted a gas stove. There is no gas at all available to this dwelling. And so we've made sure because you don't know what's been discussed. And I found that's just the simplest way to say it. So just redundancy on our reports. Okay, here's the other one that comes in as far as workflow and what you're doing. If your client asks you a question about something out of concern, be sure to include this item in your report. I don't understand when a complaint's being filed, the inspector says, well, I talked about it with them, but it's not in your report. They said to you, we heard that this house has a water leaking problem. Did you check the meter? And the guy says, well, no, I don't check meters. He said that verbally, but on his report, he didn't say it. So when we looked at it, it was obvious there was a leaking problem because the meter was running like crazy. And all he had to say was someone should check the meter. Even though they asked him, he didn't put it in the report. So there was a massive water leak under the building that caused settlement. That's a problem. So right now there's a building that fell down in Florida and they're trying to figure out why it fell down. Well, part of it is there's a big sinkhole there, but all this water that seems to be coming from nowhere. So as the building moved 11 inches in a week, it sheared off all the water lines in the sewer, and then it made the ground more mushy, and then it became viscous, and then the building just sort of slid into the ground and collapsed. So these are the type of things. So do all of you check the water meter for movement when you get to the building? Do you go to the water
As long as I
meter?
can find it.
Huh?
As long as I can find it. Yeah, of course I do.
You're right. And if you can't find it, do you say meter was not located?
Yes.
Okay. So it's preemptive report writing. You're not trying to get out of something, but I couldn't find the meter. Therefore, we don't know the condition of the water main, which we can't see. But if you're there and the meter's moving with nothing in the house being used, we have a leak. So then they have to figure out where it's coming from. So do not respond verbally only, as they might not remember when they read through the report. They always say, I don't remember you telling me that. That's what they say. For our own company and any complaint we get when we have to call somebody, I don't remember you telling me that. We have a video where the home inspector shot a video of him talking to the client and telling him on the video, but it still wasn't in his report. The roof leaked, but he's saying the roof's in pretty good shape, and the roof is leaking. And on his report, he said the roof is leaking, but on the video, he's telling him the roof is in good condition. So, you're going to supply something. Do a summary wrap up at the end of your inspection. Ask if you have what you've inspected and if you answered their concerns, if they're there. So at the end, I always say to them, can you tell me the top 3 items that bother you? So that way I make sure they're highlighted in my report. I have them tell me what their areas of concern are. You know, even though I'm writing probably one of the best reports ever written by a human, the idea is I need to make sure that I've met their expectations to a certain level anyway. So generally they'll say, yeah, the roof's bothering me. I've had people say, oh, that cracked window's bothering me. And you're going, what? You got a $10,000 roof, but that $5 window's bothering you. Yeah, that's what's bothering me. And they'll drop that deal in 2 seconds because of that cracked window. Roger, how do you handle your wrap up? Do you ever have your buyers with you, or are you just doing these things?
Oh, yeah, I asked for them to be there at the end of the inspection.
Okay. So Roger says, have them show up at the end. And I have agents, because we're always getting new agents sort of wander in because their home inspector's retiring or something. And they'll say, oh, you want them there? Oh, that sounds like such a hassle. I said, well, whatever. And when they get done, what's the number one item the buyer says at the end of the inspection? I didn't realize that this would be so much fun. And you're going, really? Man, you must not have a life. That's what I usually say to them. They'll say, I didn't realize this would be so much fun. Well, you know, you have to make it fun for them. Like, you know, where's Waldo? What are we looking at? What do you see? And we're going to talk about how I use the tools. And people say, oh, you let the buyer touch your tools? Yes, I let them touch the tools and get them involved, because they remember the number one item when they're done. They say, you know, I really like the fact I plugged that tester in. Anybody can plug a tester in, come on. Or I let them use my, you know, whatever special tool we might have. Okay, never deliver the report until the signed contract is returned and paid. Don't get me wrong, but I like to get paid. So at the end of the inspection, I don't stand around. I watch inspectors. They sort of stand there thinking that through osmosis or some mind meld thing that the buyer's going to say, oh, I'll pay you now. I just say, well, we did the inspection. Let's pull out the money. Let's go ahead and pay for this. And sometimes, you know, they've already paid and they say, oh, I paid in the pay portal last week. Great. Thank you very much. I really enjoy the fact you paid me. And they say, okay, sure. Or they'll say to me, oh, you did an inspection for me, you know, a couple of years ago. And I can't remember those. I can't remember what I did 8 months ago. Okay, if there is a report sent to escrow, do any of you send them to escrow for payment later?
No.
Only a crazy person does that in this kind of market. They're under no obligation to pay you. I don't care if you get a signed card or they sign an agreement. The title company, if the buyer says, I don't want you to pay them, you're not getting paid. They have your report. Remember that. And someone says, oh, I charged an extra $50. Whatever. Okay. The only place that you get to take your product and pay for it afterwards is a restaurant. You eat it and then you pay for it afterwards. No one else lets you do that, hardly at all.
Fast food, you got to pay up front.
Oh, that's true. Fast food, because it's fast. It's fast. Yeah. Tools of the trade. Okay. So there's some things here that you might be using. I only carry about 7 or 8 tools. I want everyone to know that, but I have a truck full of tools. I used to carry a lot of stuff. Okay. I carry a magic marker, a multi-tip screwdriver. Oops, got to go back. And everyone says, why am I carrying a magic marker? Well, I learned a valuable lesson here. Let me see if I can get this to come back here a minute. Oh, sorry. It's got an animation on it. Okay. Let's do it this way. Animation, it's always a problem. A tablet for the program, flashlight, multi-focus, over-the-shoulder bag, lighter with extension. So a lot of you say, well, why do I have those type of things? I carry a Merce or a man purse bag with some of my tools in them because I like to have them available so I can use them. Okay. I carry a 6-inch mirror. It's like the mirror that goes on the top of your sun visor in your car that folds down. And I get that over at AutoZone. And I call this my $100,000 mirror. I've saved and made $100,000 over the years using that mirror to show a defect under a faucet, underneath a sink, instead of crawling under there. Your phone can take a picture, but if my buyer's with me, I say, hey, take this mirror, look at this. They always go, wow. I also use the mirror as a pointer if I'm outside and the sun's shining into the mirror, and I'll shine it up against the wall of the house, and people always turn around immediately to see what is it, why is that marker so bright, and I'm using the mirror as a pointer. You have to remember when you're looking at a plane way up there, they always say, oh, I wish I had a mirror. Well, you got one right there with you. So there's the mirror. Okay. So the mirror, we're looking up underneath a gap where an air conditioning refrigeration line has a big gap, and bugs are entering right here in this location. Also, we can use this same mirror to check underneath for the stucco trim edges, molding, and other areas like that. So this mirror here, again, they're about $4 or $5. I was getting dollar store mirrors, but you got to get a good mirror. A lot of people say, oh, I like the metal mirror. You got to get a distortion-free mirror that you can take a picture in. Okay, I use my card. This one's a little old because it says 2019, but I stick that card in along the edge of the window to check for gaps, and you can see this goes all the way in. So I carry a card around with me, and then we have one that's laminated. And when I take the picture, this is one of my tools, I always make sure the name of my company, my phone number, and the year are there, so it's in that picture of where the defect is. Now, what better way to advertise than have your own card being used? My tool or card for this is a multi-folded card in the middle. It costs more money. I can afford a nickel, everyone. Now I think they're a quarter. But either way, so this is 2019, and then we print a new one every year. Now, we laminate this card also, and we use it to block the drain on showers to check shower pans for leaks. We just lay it down over the shower pan and check that for leaks. We have signs on the vehicles, magnetic signs. This week was sort of a weird week because we had 3 signs blow off vehicles, which never happens. They're on the freeway somewhere. We're not sure where, but they got to their location and the signs are just gone. So either way, but we have signs in the vehicles and we put signs on the back. We get quite a bit of work off that. The number has to be big enough to be read from 20 feet away, just to give you an example. Some of you, if you can't read the phone number, so why have a sign? So the number needs to be bigger than anything. And all you have to say in your sign is home inspections and your phone number. You don't even need your company name on it. No one cares. Okay, an A-frame sign at inspections. It's crazy how many inspections we got off of this, but we had A-frame signs made up, one small and one big, and we put them at the beginning of the vehicle in the street so everybody could see that we were doing the inspection. And we got people calling, especially in new construction, calling on these A-frames. It was a great thing. They paid off almost immediately for that. So again, I don't know why you're hiding the fact you're there, but this tells everybody you're there. So again, tools. I use a ferrous metal detecting tool. I'm going to look into the camera. A ferrous metal detecting tool. I know all of you are part of the Mensa group. Does anybody here know what that is? It's a magnet.
Does it begin with an M?
Yes, it's magnet. And I say this in front of the client. I say, I wonder if this garage door is made out of metal. And then I say, wait a minute, I have a ferrous metal detecting tool. And they always start laughing. I mean, it's just, and then I'll say, well, what do you use that for? I don't know. Why don't you tell me? Then we get inside and they'll say, I wonder if that tub is made out of metal. In other words, that's why it's fun, because we're promoting this thing that they're getting involved, and it takes the boredom away of looking at a house over and over again. I mean, I've been doing this so long now, I got to make it different. Otherwise, how often can you find a defect? But either way, it's a magnet and it's on one of those extension poles, and you get that at the same place. You get your mirror that you're going to use, that saves you all that money. But it has to be one strong enough so you can use it to beat on the edge of fascia board. But I use it all the time to check for, it's not strong enough to check smoke detectors, though I found out. You got to use a different tool. So to check smoke detectors. If it's a vacant house, I take the rod out of the closet and I use the closet rod and I use that to poke at the smoke detector so I can test them. I could use a ladder, but that's so yesterday. Laminated card to stop up shower pans to check for leaks. Again, we laminate our business card. We lay that down on the shower pan. We put about an inch or two of water in there, and then we turn off the shower. We walk around, then we come back and we look in the room opposite to where the shower is. Typically, it has carpet in the closet, and we'll look for leaks. Usually, you can tell if the pan is leaking because the carpet is brown or black, and we carry 7-inch pliers with us, and we'll pull up the edge of the carpet, and then we'll in that corner, and we'll look, and sure enough, the tack strip is black from water leaking through there. And then, we'll say, well, the shower pan's leaking. They always want to know, how did we know that? Well, because the shower pan's leaking. But you can tell because the carpet is usually black in that area. Okay, do all of you check water pressure in a house?
Yes.
Okay. We're not required to check pressure. We're required to check what, Roger?
Flow, functional flow.
Functional flow. Okay. Pressure is a function of this gauge. And in this case here, the pointer is pointing way down here and the other one's pointing way up here. But at 40 to 80 pounds is the common IRC, International Residential Code amount. And then each one of your municipalities can decide what pressure they like to supply to you. And it's typically 40 to 80 pounds. And if you don't have a pressure regulator on it, it might go up higher. So Roger, up in your area, in mountain areas, we used to have pressure of 100 pounds or more in areas in Tucson because we're on a hillside, and their faucets were dripping and leaking because some faucets aren't made to handle that pressure. So we
I've seen it seen as high as 120.
Yeah, 120. So now, does everyone, okay, so if I check the pressure on the faucet in the front, will it be the same at the rear faucet?
If it's on the same level.
Well, yeah, it's called the static pressure. So, pressure varies on height, but as he said, yeah, 2-story. I didn't think of that. Thank you, Roger. But all ground floor faucets will have the same static pressure. Okay. So we pull out this gauge and we do this. But I've had inspectors say, "Oh, I need to check it near the front faucet because it might be different. Did you check the back faucet?" Whatever. And then, do you flush a toilet after you hook this up? I flush a toilet. What we're checking for is the pressure regulator doesn't work. So you should not have a drop in pressure of more than 8%. I had to look this up. Pressure regulators are designed so that you don't have a drop of more than 8%. Does pressure drop with flow? Yes. Pressure drops with flow. It's a function of physics, they tell me. If I'd stayed in school longer, I probably wouldn't be a home inspector, but I wouldn't have had as much fun.
I have found on a few houses to where the front hose bib is into the line before the pressure regulator.
Yes.
So the front hose bib will have 100 and some pounds. The rear will, since it's off the pressure regulator, will be, a lower pressure. But I have found that a few times.
Right. Yeah.
In my area.
Yeah. So the problem is that the sprinkler system might not be on the pressure regulator side. So the sprinkler system, the heads are blowing off all the time.
Exactly.
How they plumb it in. So now we're checking and saying, okay, is there a shutoff in the main? Or if you have a fire sprinkler or suppression system, you're not supposed to have a regulator in that part of the line, but you can go to the sprinkler suppression system and look, and there'll be a dial on it. That dial might say 100, 120, 130, 150 pounds PSI. Well, they're going to have to fix something from the city side of that. Okay. Here's your water meter. This is a analog meter. The new digital ones are really hard to tell if there's a leak because you can't read the numbers. So usually you just have to look and you'll see the numbers clicking away showing there's a leak. When you do this, you have to turn on a faucet somewhere and verify you're looking at the correct water meter. You have to turn on the water so you're looking at the correct meter. So you can't just say, oh, this meter's in front of the house, because maybe it's to the right or left, or there's two of them in the corner. So again, I send a runner in, someone like the buyer or the agent, and say, go in and just turn on a faucet for a minute. The little triangle there will move for the minutest amount of water. There's like a little triangle right here. And then there's this pointer, which is cubic feet of water. But either way, this little triangle will turn for the smallest amount of water. So I'll take my magic marker, which I have, and I'll make a little mark in the corner of one of these. And I'll just stand there and stare. And then if it doesn't move, now sometimes these will move on their own. What's sort of interesting about this, as pressure drops on the line side, this will bounce back and forth sometimes. Pressure on the main line drops, and the meter will run backwards and forwards a little bit when it's not in use. Sort of weird. Okay, does anyone use an infrared camera that does a picture like this? Okay, Key does. Do you use one, Roger?
Yeah, I use an infrared.
Oh, you do? Okay. I don't use them. I think it's a fancy toy. I think I have one here. I'm trying to find it in the dark. Oh yeah, here. I've got this one here. Let me show you guys what it is. See, right here. See? It's this big pointy thing here. Oh, here, I'll turn on the light so you can see. There you go. So it's one of these FLIR things. There it is right there. Yeah. It's a fancy toy. I've used it a couple times for stuff, but mainly it just tells me that there's some heat or water. I use it for leaks mainly. But so look at this electrical panel there, and you see all that heat there? Well, it may not be that hot. It's hot because that circuit's on. You know, so the wire is made to, in this case, it says 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, if we look it up, that wire may be rated for, 90 or 100, 110 or something. So I don't know if it's really showing me a hot spot. You have to know what you're reading. So at one time, every termite person on the planet had one of these and were running around writing things up. And I don't know, either way. But I don't use them for my inspections at all, unless I'm looking for leaks or something, because I'm finding the false positives are worse than anything else. But it sure does look pretty, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have a hose I bring with me. And this hose is actually the braided hose I tell them to put on their washing machine. And the braided hose itself, I stick it down the drain for a washer hookup to verify it works. But we also have boilerplate that says we didn't verify that the drain is functional. We do this because this is one of the most common items we have. They move in and the washer backs up almost within a week, because every washer you have dumps lint down the drain after every wash. The lint goes down the drain after every wash. So it's like, okay, you clean out the dryer and all this lint's in there. Imagine that amount of lint getting shoved down this sewer line. Also in this case, I was able to put the valve on there, do a static water pressure test. Mainly the reason I was doing that is because this valve, when you push it down to turn it on, turns on both sides. And I didn't have a cap, so I used my valve to cap it with. How high does this standpipe have to be proper? How high does the standpipe for your washer have to be? Above what?
Feet.
Huh?
That's a guess.
What?
3 feet, it's a guess.
Yeah, let's pretend it's 3 feet. It has to be above the flood rim of the washing machine, which is 3 feet. Good guess, Roger. So a washing machine is 3 feet. So this has to be 3 feet high to the top. If not, when water's running out and the hose is hooked up, it siphons water out of the washing machine, and then you have soap left in the washing machine afterwards. So I've had people saying, I just can't get my clothes clean. There's always soap at the end. Well, that's because every time it goes to a drain cycle, it's siphoning it because the drain is lower than the water in the washer. So this standpipe has to be 36 inches high to the top. So sometimes you get here and it'll only be 18 inches. There's some rule about the pipe has to be 18 inches long from the P-trap, but you can't have that. It has to be as high as as that pipe. Here's your electrical outlet. Do any of you write up the fact that the new dryers have a 4-prong pigtail versus 3-prong? New dryers have a 4-prong.
I mention it in my report, but I don't make it a big deal.
Well, we only mention it by the fact that when they bring their dryer, it won't plug into there. So
Yeah.
they're going to have to change their dryer plug or the outlet on the wall. So we just make a statement. It's okay. It's wired, but an electrician's going to show up and tell them they need to run a ground that they don't have. Do all of you have one of these 3-prong tester things? I love these because they have a little light on them. Yeah, the guys have just bought one. I should have put a picture. This thing's from China, and it tells you all these things. It's only $19. I'll have to send a picture to everybody. But it says outlet is wired correctly. It says right on it. When it's not, it says the outlet's not wired correctly. But either way, this is a Southwire. They're a Canadian company. Originally, I thought this was China, but they're based in Canada. So red is bad, and amber is good. So 2 amber lights are good, and red is bad. So in this case, if I read that, and usually, again, I get my client involved because I say, well, I can't read that. It's so teeny, which is true. And they'll read it. It says open ground or hot, neutral, or reversed. And I said, well, that's because the house has no grounding path. And they put in an outlet and they wired it incorrectly. So you have 2 choices here. Change this back to a 2-prong receptacle or put a GFCI there, which you can put on a non-grounded circuit. And there's your choices. And then you have to say no earth ground or no ground. But either way, this outlet's wired incorrectly. So I carry one of these testers with me, and I carry a volt stick, an induction tester, because it beeps. It makes little beepy sounds. Beep, 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 beep. And I carry one of those with me to find out if there's power. The problem with those is you get a lot of false grounds or false positives with those. Okay, I have one of these. I don't use it much. It's one of these little glow stick things. You throw them in the microwave and they glow when microwaves are hitting them. It's just the cutest thing. I actually don't use this for my clients because I found out they're much more receptive if I take a wet paper towel and I throw it into the microwave and I hit it for 30 seconds and I say, I wonder if this is going to be 140 to 150 degrees. And they go, how do you know? I don't. Let's find out. And I go ahead and I turn the microwave on for 30 seconds. And when it comes out, guess what the temperature is? 140 to 150 degrees. And then we have this discussion about, do you ever order coffee? And there was a lady who bought coffee from McDonald's years ago, and they heated their coffee to 200 degrees. And then they hand it to you in your car, and then you put it between your legs and drive away. Well, now they don't do that. They only heat it to 180 degrees and hand it to you. If I said to you, I'm going to heat this to 180 and put it in your palm of your hand, you'd say, no way. So either way, I'm not sure how this thing works. The microwaves excite the little diodes in there, and then they glow. I don't know what that's telling me, but the other way, at least I know it's working. Okay, so here's my ferrous metal detecting tool. Here's the end of it right here. And because it's made out of metal, I'm using it to test the 2 contacts for the central vacuum system. And again, if I were lost and I was out in the woods, I would need a ferrous metal detecting tool and my mirror, and I could probably survive for, I don't know, 2 or 3 hours before I died of exposure, I suppose. But I use this to test this. We don't test central vacuum systems, but this is a way to prove that the motor does work. Okay? We say we don't test them, and then I show them how you could test it. But we MacGyver this. You can take your hose and put foil around it, and it'll start. Okay? We fill up tubs to the overflow. This water's sitting there, and the overflow doesn't seem to be working. If you notice, it's above it, and the water's not disappearing. So what does that tell us?
It's clogged.
Yeah,
Or not hooked up.
yeah, the overflow's clogged, or they put something behind it so it won't drain. And also, this tub is what kind of tub? Right over here on the right, what do I see? It's a jetted tub. It's a jetted tub. This is the suction port over here on the top right side here. It's a jetted tub, and the drain is closed. Now this tub here, we're going to use our ferrous metal detecting tool to determine if this thing is made out of a ferrous metal product. And why? Because I handed the magnet to my client. My client goes, wow, look at this. I'm quite sure they'll go buy one tomorrow. The spout here, we're checking that around the edge of the tile. We're checking this little pulley thing here. The water usually comes in and runs back along this edge and dribbles to the ground. And then behind the tub, there used to be an access port on the wall behind this location. Now we go into the next room where the closet is. There's carpet. We're going to pull the carpet back with our 7-inch pliers. When I say pull it back, we're not running across the room, everybody. We're just prying it up enough to see if the tack strip is colored black, and usually it is. Then I'm going to pull it back a foot or two and see how stained it is, and then make a statement. They need now to have this tested to see what this black substance is all over the tack strip. Our time basis when we're doing the inspection is based on turning on tubs, filling them. In this case, we turn on the tub and I shut it off. And all this debris laying in here is, I don't want to gross anybody out, but is whatever's got washed off their skin is floating around inside this tub area. So this is going to have to be cleaned up unless you want to go take a bath in this. This is the last 10 people who are in here. So it's still dirty. So they're going to need to bleach this out and clean it. So I just make a statement that the tub is going to need to be cleaned before you use it. Disinfected is the word we use. But this is a jetted tub. Now, part of the GFCI rule is a jetted tub required to have GFCI protection? Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. The motor is required to have GFCI protection. And typically the older ones need to be bonded. Some of the newer ones have a bonding lug on them and need to be bonded because it's on there. And it'll also say in the instructions it needs to be on its own circuit. So we expect to run back and find a circuit, a 20 amp circuit, typically for a motor this big. You say, well, I don't know all that. You don't have to know anything. Just find the GFCI for this, trip it off, and make sure the motor goes off. Okay. Okay, I use this device all the time. It's just the best tool I have. I have the most fun with this because I can use the laser pointer as a pointer in the house when I'm doing the inspection. I point at the ceiling, I show them where the leaks are, the registers. So in this case here, I'm showing the temperature of the driveway was only 136 degrees. So see, blacktop. I use this to get my delta T or differential on my air registers versus my return. It is not the correct way to do it, but I'm not going to use a thermometer because I really don't care. A lot of you were checking your 14 to 22 degree splits on your air conditioners, but the house is still 80 degrees and it has that split. That's crazy. So, I've had someone say, oh, I checked it, the split's fine. I go, but it never got below 80 in the house. It's supposed to cool it to be comfortable in there, not hot. So I use this thing. Now, the one I bought has 2 lasers, and the 2 lasers, it shows you the closer you are, the better it is, and the farther away, the less accurate it is. Okay, so, but this is what I use. We'll use this to go around and check every register on the air conditioning mode, and then we walk into a room that's facing south, and I'll shoot the floor where the sun is hitting the carpet, and I'll say, the room is 70, but the carpet's 85. And sure enough, it's 85. I'll show them that. And I'll say, well, this is not low E glass. This is just regular glass. And then we'll go to another room where they've replaced the windows and we'll test it. And it's only 5 degrees difference. So low E glass is better. I mean, I don't know it's low E, but it must be a reflective type glass that makes it cooler. But a lot of people think double pane glass makes it cooler. Also, I use this now to test that green grass that's outside. Everyone says, oh, it's designed to be cooler. It's 150 to 160 degrees for that grass. It's outside, that plastic grass they have. And they'll say, designed to be cooler. Well, that's why your dog won't walk on it. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. Any questions? It takes me an hour and a half to 2 hours to do a 2,400 square foot house. I'm taking pictures throughout the whole inspection. And then I'm going back and filling in my report. I'm using a tablet that I'm filling stuff in. Up until about 9 months ago, I never really had typed anything on my computer because I always had a typist when my typist got sick. It's my wife, and had some brain surgery stuff going on. So I've had to learn how to get on I know how to type, but now I get on the computer, and I'm finding out it's quicker for me just to finish the report on the computer for home gauge. But I really like the tablet because I can take all the pictures I need in the area I'm at, and that's really sped up the life. You design however you're going to do it to match what you do. So on my report, I have 20 different items. The first 10 are all outside, and the next 10 are all inside. So I don't have to keep searching around. And then when I'm up on the roof, all the things I find on the roof are in the roofing section. So you don't have to keep searching for it. So we have air conditioning sections, and I've seen some guys, they have plumbing, and everything in plumbing is there. We've divided out the bathrooms on their own. We've divided out the water heaters on their own, fireplaces on their own, because if we don't have a fireplace, we can just click it and get away from it. Pools, we do a lot of those. So pools under its own section. It all makes your workflow work out if you have some way to make the system work faster for you. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Otherwise, we're going to call it here. We just finished about 15 minutes early. Your CUs will be sent to you after the class. Any questions? I don't know if Steve's on or he's sleeping. Ken's talked. Keith, thanks for coming. Darren from Arizona. I think Darren is somebody I think I know him. He's from Seattle also. Any other questions, Roger? Ken, do you have your mics off?
No.
Yeah, I got a kitty smoke detector. Is anybody calling that out?
Oh, yeah, I don't get involved with any recalls because I might miss one, but I just say the smoke. Okay, so why don't you tell them about that, Ken? Go ahead.
I think the smoke detector, it was online about a month ago. They recalled 266,000 units, and they give the model numbers 2040, 2050, 2060, 2070 from May 2019 till September of 2020. But it's online, and I've never really taken the time to dig in to find the model numbers, but I'm calling them out. We do a lot of the new construction. So.
Sure. Well, that's a good thing to do on new construction. See, we used to do a lot of that too. What we just say is you're moving into the house, you should just replace your smoke detectors with new ones. The old ones have batteries that go bad and you have to replace them. Supposedly the new ones have batteries that'll last 8 or 9, 10 years, they say. But we don't spend any time saying, oh, well, they're all working. We push a button and they make noise. And typically they don't make noise. So now they need to be fixed or replaced. They need to be in all bedrooms. They need to be in the hallway. Starting in 2020, they need to have that other thing, the carbon monoxide detector on all levels of the house and within 15 feet of sleeping areas. So we write that up for safety. And then we talk about the fact that the carbon monoxide detectors, one needs to be high and one needs to be low, because the specific gravity of gas can zero, so it can flow through the house. So you need to have those detectors, one high on the wall battery and one plugged in lower for safety, and that's part of our boilerplate. But again, we try not to spend more than about 2 hours on a 2,400 square foot house. If we have to spend the time, we do it, but we move along at a certain speed, a certain cadence, as I say. Turning on the air conditioner. Now, in the summer, we don't turn on the furnace. In the winter, we don't turn on the air conditioner. And when it's sort of a mild temperature in between, we turn on both. And then we say, even though we turned it on, doesn't mean it's going to function properly because you're forcing it to turn on with a thermostat. Will it cycle properly? We don't know. But the idea is the flames came on, and it did function at that time. I mean, all the new systems are a little bit different. You know, in the good old days, you had pilots on everything. Your water heaters are already lit. Oh, does anybody like water heaters in this group? You like water heaters? No? You're shaking your head. So say no. One thing I do carry is I carry a fireplace tool to turn on the gas log to light it, because that's something the client would operate. I turn it on first. I hear gas hissing, I shut it off, and I light the residual gas without it on, and it puffs. So I know it's gas instead of spending my time there waiting for it to blow back and hit me in the face. I can light that, and that gas is burning long enough for me to step out, from the fireplace, turn it on. It lights nicely. And I explained to the client how easy that was. When I look up inside the fireplace, we need to verify it has the fireplace damper clipped off. And then the other one we didn't mention was stoves. We're checking for anti-tip on all stoves to make sure they can't fall out of the opening. So anti-tip is something that's been required on all stoves for about 15 years. So we grab the back of the stove, pull it forward, and if there's no anti-tip, we write it up. We suggest the client replace all water lines under sinks and toilets with braided lines now. So braided lines are a nice thing to have in case there's a break. And then all washer hookups, get rid of the rubber hoses and go with braided hoses. I think that's about it. Anything else anyone wants to add? Thanks for staying up so late, some of you. Roger, anything else to add? We have the same sort of education going on for about the next 4 or 5 weeks. Next week is critters. The weekend after that is defects. We have a lawyer coming on. She's not a lawyer, but she handles defects out of the Phoenix market. And that should be a pretty good class. So we'll advertise that more. We're going to have an on-site in Phoenix. It'll be the scariest day of the year, October 30th in Phoenix. And then we're going to do an inspect a house in November, before New Year's, or not you. What's in November?
We haven't come up with a date yet, but November, December.
Yeah, November, December. We'll do it. Holidays are in there, but we'll try to do it because it's nicer weather, and we'll either pick a space in Tucson or up in Phoenix.
It's also so if you need your CEUs, you can get them in before the end of the year as well.
Right.
And that'll be the first class that we've been together in almost 2 years. The last one was on the 29th of February last year.
In Tucson at the Straw Bale House. That was the last one we've done. So the one in Phoenix will be the Black Canyon Conference Center went bankrupt. They're closed. So we're going to be using the one near the airport. It's a sister business. And we'll have right now the idea of what we're going to have is we're going to have the building inspectors from Maricopa County. Pima County says they won't drive up there, but Pinal County, and then Phoenix. So if we get a couple building inspectors to come up for the first sessions to talk about the codes related to the items we inspect. So some of you are writing things up and saying this isn't installed properly. Well, it's really manufacturer standards is what we have to follow. The codes don't really have much to do with that, but fire separation walls, pull down stairways, flex lines used in the pressure relief valve, drain lines. There's a new air separation gap required in pressure relief drain lines to the exterior now. No more than 4 elbows on a drain line for TNP. Tankless water heaters don't require a temperature relief valve. They only require a pressure relief valve. So the pressure valve has no probe on it, so that's how it can fit on there. Most of your on-demand water heaters require a sediment trap. All of them do, let's say it that way. Sediment traps are not being installed properly, so the idea is let's make sure they're installed properly in the state of Arizona, sediment traps. Gas valve requirements, flex lines, things like that. You can only run one fixture off a 1/2-inch pipe, gas line. You can only run one 30,000 BTU fixture off of a 1/2-inch gas line. Why do I say that? Well, because the gas line to a 30,000 BTU water heater is 1/2 inch. Your on-demand water heaters are a 100,000 BTU, so you need a 3/4 inch line for those. So 1/2 inch can only run one fixture. So if you have a water heater and a dryer hooked to the same 1/2 inch line, it's incorrect because there's not enough volume for BTUs to run both of them.
So when your client asks if they can put a on-demand water heater in, a good answer would be, well, you need to find out how big the pipe is.
Right. Yes. The BTUs of this water heater won't allow you to hook it up to that 1/2 inch pipe that exists. Now they do make some on-demand water heaters that say they'll function. They do, but they'll function at a lower rate. That's the problem. They function, but they function by cutting down the flow of water, so you're not heating as much. The manifold doesn't work. So I just put an on-demand electric water heater in that runs off of 30 amps, and the heating system in it is no bigger than a pack of cigarettes. It's pretty interesting. But it said it won't operate anything more than a sink and the shower next to it. If you go any farther than that, it won't run anything. You have to go up to the next level, which is 60 amps. And then it has 2 manifolds on it, but it requires 60 amps of power for an on-demand electric water heater. Okay, everybody, I think that's it. I'll send the recording out, and if you have any other questions, let us know. Send us an email. Thank you. Have a great evening, everybody.